The Panthers are exploring the D market for some help. And is Sam Bennett playing himself out of the Canadian Olympic team? All this and more on today's Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, October 31st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. That is Nich Fairbanks joining me on another edition of Fairbanks Friday here on the show. You could follow him on X at Prudentia0. Shout out to every day who's come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. You can do that all on Game Time. Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. Today we are going to discuss Sam Bennett and his play, and with us being 99 days away from the Milano Cortina Olympics, it's time to discuss where he is right now and what the Canadian Olympic team could look like with Sam Bennett's play not being up to par. We're also going to discuss the trade market for the Panthers as they are looking for defense, and also we are going to preview Saturday's game between the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars. So, Nick, good morning and happy Halloween. Thank you, as always, for joining me on another edition of Fairbanks Friday. Thank you for joining me.
No problem. Happy to be here and happy Halloween.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, my friend. So this exercise was inspired by the fact that we got the countdown for Milano Cortina to officially begin when you saw under 100 days. Now we are double digits in that in the countdown for the Olympics that will be going on in February. Finally, we get to see NHL players going back for the first time in 12 years. Thought we were going to see that in 2022, but unfortunately, COVID had something to say about that. But, although the rosters are expanded by 2 spots for the Olympics versus 4 nations, what we experienced last year, a lot of things can change as far as players play and also injuries, which right now, 2 guys who could be missing the Olympics for Canada, Mark Stone and also Seth Jarvis just recently got hurt as well. So there are guys who are also performing well that are improving their chances. For example, Mark Scheifele, someone who has 9 goals and 9 assists through 11 games, and he's a +8. So with the added responsibility for Sam Bennett with the Panthers and him not playing up to the standard that we expect him, especially after the start last year. This time around last year, we weren't predicting even Sam Bennett to be part of the Canadian 4 Nations team to begin with, but the hot start really helped. We know what his playoff resume is, being the Conn Smythe winner. So I ask you, do you think that there is how much of a chance do you believe that he is playing himself out of the Canadian Olympic team?
So I'm really trying to change my mindset when it comes to absolutes, but it's coming to the point where I think it's almost 100%. However, as you said, his resume when it comes to playing big games in the playoffs and everything is unparalleled right now. He just has a different gear, a different mindset. And, John Cooper recognized that last year with the 4 Nations and put him on. I mean, he was willing to do anything. He was willing to sit in the press box during the 4 Nations and just waiting for his name to be called. So why wouldn't you want a guy on your roster doing that? However, the start to the season and how he's handling the adversity right now, don't know. There's other guys in the NHL right now that probably deserve to go, but again, do they have that extra drive that Sam Bennett does?
Yeah, and there are players who are given there's speculation on guys who could be making it because of the fact that you might want to bring some younger guys in to at least get them the experience there. And there's been a lot of conversation about possibly Macklin Celebrini and or Connor Bedard, which if I'm being honest, I don't think either of them make it because you're trying to win, not trying to mentor guys right now. Yeah, Celebrini went to the World Championships just recently, but you don't want, this isn't the time to try to have a little bit of a learning situation. I think that's the time to try to, when you've been deprived of Olympic hockey, that you got to try to find a way to put your absolute best roster there. And right now, yes, October 31st, 2 months away from rosters being due. They'll be due on New Year's Eve. So we're gonna get the Winter Classic along with the rosters being due of an announcement of who's going to be making it. But yeah, there's also going to be, and you mentioned John Cooper, the familiarity with the division rival, and if you leave him off, there could be that question of what if, because of the fact of switching that gear, because sometimes uh, Sam Bennett's numbers could be average during the regular season, then he hits that next level in the playoffs. And we even saw this before the trade from Calgary to Florida, where in the bubble he was doing decently well, and although he wasn't playing a big role there, he was still shining for Calgary.
He definitely was. And, I just think his time in Calgary had run out. And, I don't think Daryl Sutter was there anymore. At least they were making a change. So his style of play was kind of going out the door. And you also have to think about it this way, too. I think the Four Nations type of play is going to be massively different from the Olympics. So
yeah,
then you have to ask, is Sam Bennett going to be put in the best position to succeed then? Is he going to be able to hit guys or play the aggressive type of hockey that he's used to? And, due to the rules and everything and how Olympic hockey is, unfortunately, it doesn't suit him. So maybe it might be wise for Team Canada to look elsewhere for maybe a more of a scorer or finesse type player. But, if he ends up making it, you know what? That's just another thing that he can put in his quiver. And, I can definitely say the Panthers will be proud in supporting him.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised one way or the other, and especially because he came clutch in that championship game against the United States for Canada. So that's another thing that you got to consider there when you think of what he's been able to do. Speaking of Olympics and Canada, Sam Bennett's teammate Brad Marchand. This isn't we're not necessarily talking about Brad Marchand and his chances of the Olympics. I think that he still has an outstanding chance based on the start, but he's been away from the team currently, and we found out a little bit of more details of the why. So Brad Marchand's longtime trainer JP MacCallum, a great friend of his back in Halifax, Nova Scotia, lost his daughter Selah at the age of 10 to cancer. And Brad Marchand decided to take the leave and also coach McCollum's U18 Marchand Mill Company Hunters, which that's an apparel company that Brad Marchand actually owns that sponsors the team. So him and 5 other friends were behind the bench during the U18 game. There's actually a recording from High Button on X from that, and also discussed about Selah wanting would have loved for all of them to be there in the time of need, how much they love hockey and how much of a community, how tight-knit that community in Nova Scotia is. And we saw it especially online from the Cup celebration with Nathan McKinnon and Sidney Crosby. But the fact that even in tragedy, which, listen, this is an excused absence, and it should be one when you're talking about close family and life and death when it comes to it. But the fact that Brad Marchand was able to be there for a friend, I mean, he's a pain in the butt on the ice, but when you think about moments like this, man has a heart of gold.
He really does, and it showed itself when he was in Boston. I just don't know how publicized it was for the rest of the country to see, because they had that narrative that they want him to be that rat or that pest on the ice and everything. But condolences about Selah, and I can't really imagine what it's like to have a loss like that or to go through something like that, and I hope I never will. But it's good on Brad. It's good on everybody who decided to chip in and really support them. I can only imagine what it's like on behind the scenes. And, you just hope that, in the future that, Brad is able to continue to do things like this. Maybe, a few years down the road, he retires and he's more of an ambassador between the league and maybe this league, or at least he's doing more coaching or development with kids and everything. So I'm glad Florida was able to, allow him that time. It just shows again that they are about family and they're all about making sure that everybody is in a good place. But other than that, I think Florida now can actually see, what kind of human being Brad Marchand is, and couldn't be happier to have him on the team.
Yeah, speaks about the culture. And Brad Marchand, there was a raffle for a signed Marchand jersey, and those donations would be sent to the family of JP MacCallum, who there's also a picture of MacCallum in the Panthers locker room with Brad Marchand lifting the Stanley Cup. So if you need to know how special JP was to Brad Marchand, just look at that picture, even before considering the unfortunate death of the daughter, Selah. So rest in peace, Selah. Condolences to the MacCallum family. And Brad Marchand is expected to be back with the Florida Panthers when they do take on the Dallas Stars on Saturday night. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where the Panthers are apparently exploring the trade market for some defense help for their blue line. We're going to discuss what possible names could the Panthers be targeting, and we'll discuss the possibilities of those all next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And the NHL season is here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer for your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets. Fast, easy, and stress-free. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seat, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday. Armando Velez here with Nich Fairbanks on another edition of Fairbanks Friday here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. And Nick, David Dwork the other day, during the day a few days ago, he tweeted that the Panthers are exploring through the trade market for some defense help. I'm gonna read the exact tweet as the screenshot is here on the YouTube. So here's the quote, the tweet from David. Hearing the Panthers are exploring the trade market for some depth on the blue line. We'll see if anything comes to fruition in the coming days and weeks. So the Donovan Zabrango, who the Panthers claimed off of waivers from Ottawa, he's now been with the team for a little bit. He skated. He got his visa worked out for the Panthers. For me, just thinking that it's a little bit of an extra body for the Panthers right now, but the Panthers are weighing their options because they know that Dmitry Kulikov, it's going to be a while before he comes back. So you got to get some help right now. We know that with Barkov and him not likely not playing in the regular season, that will open up $3.8 million in cap space for the Panthers during the season to make some trades. So looking at the options and some of the UFAs for the NHL coming in 2026, which now free agent frenzy is not going to be really a frenzy, but with all the extensions, I mean, Marty Necas recently, Thomas Harley. So yeah, some of the names that I was messaged to by Jim Behringer, him and I were talking back and forth, and I'm just thinking the likelihood of these guys being available versus the likelihood of not. So a few names so that I see here: Rasmus Anderson, Mario Ferraro, Jamie Alexiak, Matt Grzelcyk. Let's discuss some of those names. So so the least likely for me, in my opinion, is Rasmus Anderson from the Calgary Flames. He's a right shot defenseman of and the rest are left-handed shots. 4.5 million, averages 24 minutes a game, 18 blocks on the season. I think that if the Panthers are, if anyone who trades for Rasmus Andersson, you're likely going to have to come with an extension with that. And the thing is, there's been rumors about what his preferred destination is. It's been Vegas. That's been his, that's been the place that Rasmus Andersson has reportedly wanted to go. Maybe he wants to follow Noah Hannafin. So that is the least likely of the names that I think that the Panthers will be able to get based on what they would have to trade. Calgary, they're going to have to want to squeeze everything out based on the fact that they're heading towards the top of the lottery. So of these three names, do you think Andersson is the least likely, like I believe?
I do. I mean, I would have thought last season before the Panthers acquired Seth Jones that there was a possibility of actually trying to land him, but now I believe that it's going to be too much for what Calgary is going to want. And then secondly, are they going to want to pick up the phone when they say Bill Zito is on the other end on the caller ID? So a lot of caution, I think, there up in Calgary because, yeah, they thought they won that trade and that quickly turned on its head. So definitely do. If he does prefer Vegas, then I'm pretty sure Vegas is going to find a way by the trade deadline to make it happen, and they'll make some kind of snarky post on X and people are going to freak out.
Yeah, let me look at the Vegas draft capital that they have. So Panthers don't have a first round pick next year or the year after, while Vegas has 27 and 28, a whole bunch of second round picks in the next year, one in each round. The only ones that they don't have is next year's first and next year's fourth. So that's what the Vegas Golden Knights have. So, and here's the thing that that is very smart of Bill Zito once again, as far as a trade that might not get profiled, talked about a lot, but the fact that he was able to get a second round pick from Justin Sortov, and we know at the time we were just discussing that's going to be something that's going to be flipped. So do the Panthers use that as a way to like sweeten a deal for a 50% retention? And we can no longer have the broker situation. If you do, it's going to be 75 days after a trade. So that eliminates the third party for the NHL. So that it's going to be interesting to see. And also if they want the opposing team to take 50%, and with the 3.8 that's opened up with Barkov, you might want to add maybe like another depth center, probably for your bottom six. So that's where the cheaper contracts, I believe, are going to be probably more likely. Mario Ferraro, 21 minutes of average ice time, 27 blocks, 22 hits on the San Jose Sharks this year. A little small, 6-0. But if you keep a retention of half of his salary at 3.25, that's around 3.75 if my math is correct. That's still room for the Panthers to still make moves at around $2 million. So if you could sweeten that deal with San Jose, and I think they'll want some retention based on the contracts that they've gotten, Carey Prices, they acquired Nick Leddy off of waivers. So they're still going to be able to get to the salary floor, and retaining half would help them still be above the floor. So I think Mario Ferraro is a good possibility. Plus, with the Panthers still being number one in a multiple of defensive metrics, Mario Ferraro, in my opinion, adds to that.
He definitely does. And, it's unfortunate for a player sometimes that their name has been in the rumor mill for a while.
Yeah.
And, nothing has happened. So you would have to think if he actually does get moved to a team like Florida that, a fresh start would be definitely in his best interest. He could feel at home and he could have as David is trying to, speculate, if it's in the next couple days or couple weeks, he'd have time to learn the system and feel acclimated. But I think he'd fit well too. But I have my sights on somebody else, and I think you alluded to him earlier. And I did share it with our friend Kirby Lupul, and who I think the Panthers should target based on their needs and what they could do with the future.
Go ahead, name it.
It's Oleksiak for sure.
When
looking at the type of defenseman that Zito wants, it's big defenseman. He is offensive. He can put up points. He can score goals. But the biggest thing to me is his contract, and it's an expiring contract. So they don't really need to go out of their way, trade for him, and then sign him to an extension right away. Yeah. They can actually, play around and see how he fits and then make that decision at the end of the season or after the playoff run, hopefully. if they want that. But I think he fits the mold of what they really are right now and would help the team immensely, especially with the play of Balinskis and some people may disagree, but Jeff Petrie as well.
Yeah, Jeff Petrie, a puck mover, but a little bit slower on the slower end due to the rise in age for him. So with Jamie Alexiak, $4.6 million, half of that is 2.3. 17 minutes of average ice time, 18 blocks, 16 hits. A guy whose height is 6 feet 7 inches right now for him. So he's a guy who's mostly defensive defenseman. He could, and you don't need, and the fact that the minutes match with a third pair guy right now, Balinskis plays 13 minutes. So if you have a little bit of a rise in those minutes for Jamie Alexiak, even if you put him at 15, I believe that the bottom pair can be in a really good shape, and you're also not overtaxing the Gustav Forslings, Ekblad, anyone in the top four. If Alexiak is going to be playing, especially penalty kill minutes, and with his size, it's a lot easier to protect the net front for him for that bottom pair. So I think that's also where Seattle is in a little bit of they're in a little bit of a strange spot where they don't have that game breaker. Their contracts are mostly guys who are like middle pair guys. Sorry, Brandon Montour. Sorry, Chandler Stevenson. But it's still they're still like in a little bit of trying to build their own farm system before. Although they've been to the Calder Cup, they still haven't really like broken through. And a lot of people are talking. Was the first round win against the Colorado Avalanche the worst thing to happen to the Kraken? I'm being serious.
No, I can understand that from a long view standpoint, but man, that series was awesome. Honestly, like nobody gave Seattle a chance at all in that series. So while it was awesome to see, I have to agree that it did possibly set them back. I mean, they got a taste of the playoffs, but after that, it's been, hey, how do we get back to that level, or how do we get back to that type of compete? And unfortunately, it's either been goaltending's been an issue, health has been an issue, and on top of that, how many coaches have they been through already? I mean, do they have a new GM?
Yeah, Jason Botterill is the GM now.
So you've already had management changes. You've already had a change on the bench twice, and it's a lot of turmoil, a lot of turnover right now. So they need to find a way to solidify themselves and actually start making things to be better for the future. And that makes you wonder, like, what kind of offer that Florida could give for somebody like Elysiak.
Yeah, we'll see what that'll be. Quickly on Matt Grzelcyk, $1 million, 5'10", 9 blocks, 3 hits. He would be the worst fit in my opinion. He's more of a puck moving guy, and the lack of size and the physicality would honestly hurt the Panthers. So. And also Chicago's playing well. They're not going to be they're not in a position right now to sell. And then David Dwork also mentioned this on Cats and Rats. Could it be a former Panther that they could be going after? Some guys on expiring deals, Ben Sherratt, but I don't think that the Detroit Red Wings are going to sell. But then there's also some other guys like Lucas Carlson. Right now, Casey Fitzgerald is with Hartford for the Wolfpack. He's actually the captain of the team, but he's not going to be, he wouldn't play consistent minutes. So that wouldn't make sense for the Panthers. So we'll see which direction that they eventually go in when it comes to guys that they could possibly bring from the D market. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to preview Saturday's matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars, as the Panthers will wrap up the homestand. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. Even if you missed the start of the game and you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to the next fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. If the game keeps exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Segment number 3 here on this Friday, October 31st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. Armando Velez, Nich Fairbanks here, and the Panthers will wrap up the homestand this Saturday. Crazy how we are in November, and it's still, when you look at the standings, the Panthers were in third place come Thursday night, and then a few teams getting some points. The Panthers were already fourth out of the wild card. So the East is so crammed right now. Nobody has created separation. One winning streak can swing things. Like right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning, 4-game winning streak after defeating the team that the Panthers will be facing on Saturday night in the Dallas Stars. So the Dallas Stars coming off a loss, they're still in really good shape, 6-4-1 coming into Saturday's matchup. But the thing about Dallas, they're expected to be in the possibly the conference final again, Stanley Cup, 3 straight finals. Fired their coach Pete DeBoer after pulling Jake Ottinger after 2 quick goals in Game 5 against the Edmonton Oilers, and then that was the writing on the wall for him being let go. So they bring back a coach that's been with them before, in Glenn Gulutzan, but they have not missed a beat as far as special teams. The usual suspects are doing it: Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, Mikko Rantanen. But just like the Panthers, the Dallas Stars are struggling at 5-on-5. Both teams are in the middle of a 3-way tie for the least amount of 5-on-5 goals at 16. So it's a 3-way tie for 30th. So you might as well be last in that one. But they're both in the top 5 in goals against. Both have a goal differential of 0. So, oh my goodness, the two teams who are expected to be there playing these low event games. And yes, some might not think it's exciting, but the fact that both teams are just so well coached and there's so much talent, man, is this a great matchup? They're still not. They're still without Jamie Benn, who has a collapsed lung, but Jake Ottinger, rebounding after that conference final for the Dallas Stars. Not an easy matchup, as the Panthers are trying to not fall below 500.
Definitely, and it's kind of weird to say that Florida and Dallas are so similar right now in regards to how their seasons are going. And that's with Florida without Barkov and Kachuk, and now Kulikov. I'm going to add his name in there because he's been super important the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But with both teams not being able to objectively do what they want to on 5-on-5, it just shows the importance of staying out of the box and playing a smart, 5-on-5 game and not letting a lot of chances happen. So, it really does not feel good to watch a game when there's low event. Like, it's like boring, but at the end of the games, it becomes more exciting. I mean, look at the last game. Florida couldn't score for the first, 55 minutes or 55 minutes. And then all of a sudden they scored 2 goals to get it into overtime, which thankfully they did for the first time this season. They actually got to overtime and got a point for something that they should have won by the stats. But, I just don't think they played up to their 100% ability. But, coming into Dallas and everything, they have all the star power. They should be playing better, in my opinion. I know that they have a new coach and they're probably implementing maybe a little bit new system, but what's really holding them together is Jake Ottinger. And sometimes, maybe you do remove the problem in the dressing room and, maybe a breath of fresh air came in and he feels confident in what he can do and what he can bring to the team.
Yeah, and just like the Florida Panthers, the back end for the Dallas Stars is just so well put together. You're talking about 2 pairs that you have Miro Heiskanen on the top pair, and then Thomas Harley, who just recently got extended. Which that Thomas Harley extension, I'm looking at the Dallas Stars' cap situation, and I'm looking at $20 million to roster 10 players come this offseason, and then Jason Robertson's going to be worth at least 10. If you extend him, you're going to have to fill the rest of the roster with an average of $1 to $2 million deals. So I'm just thinking, this is the year to put all your chips in and go for it, because you could possibly lose Jason Robertson in a trade. He's going to be an RFA who has arb rights as well, but the great thing about Jim Nill and the GMing, yeah, he's won the Jim Gregory, and we believe that Bill Zito should have gotten one by now. But the thing about Jim Nill, about what he's done, it's either he's going to be able to fully go all in with this group and take advantage of a championship window, or with Jason Robertson being 1 year away from being a UFA, he could get a big return for him and still use some possibly those first round picks to go for something later in a trade as well. So I feel like in this situation for Dallas, it's still quite a win-win, and still being able to, although you don't improve if you were to trade Jason Robertson this offseason, but you still don't hurt your future.
No, you don't. And I think this is why his move to go get Rantanen from Carolina after what happened there was masterful. Not only does it help with production with the offense and everything, but it's going to make the blow to lose Robertson a little bit less of a sting. But at the same time, you have to eventually push those chips in and push these guys to tell them, like, hey, we got to do something. We got to win a cup and everything. And that's something that Bill Zito's done. He pushed all his chips in early. It didn't work out, but then, I think that sent a message to the team like, hey, we believe in you and we can do this. And he's made deals ever since, no first round picks. So maybe Jim Nill, who has won the GM award, the Jim Gregory award, multiple years, but no cups, maybe he takes a note out of Zito's book, and he goes all in this season, and hopefully, and possibly, not hopefully, Dallas makes the Stanley Cup final and makes some noise.
Yeah, right now their current cap space is at 800K, so maybe getting rid of a contract in order to bring someone in is probably the move that they're gonna have to make, but it's not gonna just be from an addition of their roster. So or maybe this is the team that they go with. But hey, they've retained their talent of who they feel is valuable. So even if they do eventually want to evaluate and make a move, and even if they stand pat, I believe that they are still an absolute threat. They have everything's of the making of being a Stanley Cup final contender for them. But Nick, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. As always, another successful Fairbanks Friday, and tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
No problem, Armando. Thanks for having me on. Happy Halloween again, everybody. Have fun with your kids if you celebrate. Have fun tonight. And you guys can follow me on X at Prudentia0. Let's get a big win this weekend.
Let's do it. And happy Halloween, everyone. And there's afternoon hockey today as the Vegas Golden Knights play the Colorado Avalanche. So before you go trick-or-treating, watch some hockey. And more importantly, stay safe. More importantly, don't get in trouble, everybody. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And Nick, I will see you next week.
See you next week.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nich Fairbanks. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're to your team every day.